We light this chalice with these words. Open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Open our minds to learn what is true. Open our hearts to love one another. Please join us in the affirmation of covenant, which you will find printed in your service, stating the following. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
It is my privilege to introduce Dr. Jay McDaniel to you this morning. I have known Jay for about 40 years, I think. In fact, he's the one that actually got me coming to this church. He didn't know it at the time, but I've told him that since then. Jay McDaniel is the retired Willis Holmes Professor of Religious Studies at Hendrix College in Arkansas and founder of the website Open Horizons, which focuses on exploring a process outlook on life and way of living in the world. He is chair of the board of directors of the Cobb Institute for Community and Practice based in Claremont, California. He is active in the development of process thought in China. He is a consultant to the China Project and the Center for Process Studies in Claremont, California, and a member of the advisory board of the Institute for Postmodern Development of China. His books include With Roots and Wings, Christianity in an Age of Ecology and Dialogue, Living from the Center, Spirituality in an Age of Consumerism, and Gandhi's Hope, Learning from Other Religions as a Path to Peace. Please welcome Dr. Jay McDaniel.
You can't know how great it is for me to be here. When I first came to Hendrix College some 40 years ago and met Linda and others, and thank you, Linda, for your graciousness and making this possible today, I was asked to come to the Unitarian Church 40 years ago and give a sermon. And I did. And I can remember the topic. It was Martin Luther King's vision of hope. Now, I tell you that I'm going to give exactly the same sermon today, and you wouldn't know. But it is kind of related, but I was so warmly welcomed here, and I feel so close, and I see so many familiar faces here, people that I know by name and people that I know by face. I see my old colleague, Norman Bohm, and I just so enjoy hearing him playing. Hi, Norman. It's so good to see you. And just a word about this room. About 25 years ago, more than that, I was the English teacher for a Zen Buddhist master from Japan. When I was in seminary, preparing for Christian ministry, I was influenced by the writings of Thomas Merton, and it got me being interested in Buddhism, even though I was and still am a Christian. And as his English teacher, we were together for one full year. He taught me to meditate, and I'm forever grateful to him. He started coming to Arkansas once a year to lead retreats. He would travel around the country, lived in Kyoto, but he would come once a year to lead retreats. And the first retreat that we ever had in Arkansas was right here. And it was right on this floor. And so I can remember sitting right there in the half lotus position, knees killing me, wondering, will this ever be over? But the Unitarian Church, you would allow that. Of course you would. That's who you are. You want to be a space for life, in beauty and love, in whatever form. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. Now, tonight's the first day of Hanukkah, and it's a festival of lights. And you may or may not know that it lasts for 8 days. And every day, Jews will light a candle until the 8th day when you've got the menorah with all the candles. And so I'd like to begin what I'm going to say to you with a poem about light. And it will feed into what I'm going to offer. This poem is called Collecting Light, and it's by Deborah Cooper. It goes like this. I see the way the sun will find the only interruption in dark clouds to toss this amber light across the pines. I see a row of cars stop on the road until the orange cat has safely crossed, then take off slowly, should she change her mind. I watch the way my brother lifts our mother from the wheelchair to the car, the shawl he lays across her lap. I save up every scrap of light because I know that it will take each tiny consolation every day to mend the world. And that poem contains two kinds of images. One is the image of the beauty of the natural world, the light shining through the pines. And the other is the image of poignancy, human poignancy. My brother lifting my mother out of the car and putting her in a wheelchair and putting a shawl across her lap. Or the orange cat crossing the road and all the cars stop and stay there, making sure she doesn't come back, and only then moving on. There is the beauty, and there is the kindness. And the kindness extends from us to one another, and it also extends from us to other animals. Now, truth be told, they're kind to us too. Not in sentimental ways, but where would our lives be without the more than human world? Where would we be? The answer is nowhere, or very, very lonely. So thanks to the sunlight, thanks to the orange cat, thanks to my brother who helps my mother, and thanks to my mother, the kindness and the beauty. I specialize in a form of theology, a form of philosophy called process philosophy. And it began about 40 years ago, or maybe more than that, and was influenced by a philosopher and mathematician named Alfred North Whitehead. He was born in England and ended up teaching at Harvard. And late in his life, he said, I think I'm going to try to write a book that kind of pulls it all together. Science, philosophy, art. He was especially influenced by quantum mechanics, by the way, by early quantum mechanics, which gave him the image of a universe filled with pulsations of energy. Things unfold in moments. Moments are the building blocks. And he wrote that book, and it influenced a lot of people, and some Christians, and more recently some others said, I think he offers a way for us to think that makes sense, and that does indeed draw together science and philosophy and art and spirituality and morality. So that launched this movement called process theology. And I myself, on the way to seminary some 45 years ago, it must have been, I was torn between being a Christian and being a Buddhist. I found so much wisdom I found liabilities in both perspectives, but I found something I could learn from. And I turned to Whitehead early on because he offered a way of looking at things that could say yes to truth wherever you find it, yes to the truth of Buddhism, yes to the truth of Christianity, yes to the truth of other religions, and yes to the truth of people who aren't religious, and happily so. Yes to so much truth. So I became, myself, a process theologian. And I've been one for a long time now. But gradually, I became impatient with my fellow process theologians who were interested only in having a nice worldview, who were interested only in understanding the world at a theoretical level. That's not enough. We need more. And so I've been fairly instrumental in helping this world of process theology take a turn. So people think of themselves, if they're in the process tradition, it's not just a worldview, it's a way of living. And it's a way of living that is guided, that is prompted by 4 hopes. And these are hopes that I imagine you share. I don't meet many people that don't. But I'll name them. The first hope, and each of us have this hope, is simply to be a whole person as best we can. To live with some degree of wisdom, some degree of compassion, some degree of joy, some degree of inner freedom. You know the difference between inner freedom and outer freedom. Outer freedom is just doing whatever you can do. Inner freedom is having a space inside yourself to freely respond to whatever happens, happy or sad. So wisdom, compassion, interior freedom, and joy. That's at least part of what it means to be a whole person. And process theology, in its small way, wants to help people do that. One more word about that, basically because I need to tell you a story. I do volunteer work in nursing homes once or twice a week. And I work with folks that have dementia and Alzheimer's. And I do sing-along music. And I go sing You Are My Sunshine with my guitar, and they sing. And we have a moment of Holy Communion. If they tap their hands or tap their feet, we're together. And it's mutual. It's not paternalistic. It's not I'm helping you. It's we're together. Now recently, I inherited for 4 months a trained therapy dog, golden retriever. And so I would take the therapy dog and my guitar to nursing homes. And I went into this one nursing home in Conway with my dog. Camo is his name. And the staff person was walking me down the halls, and if it looked like somebody wanted us to come in, we would go in, and if not, we wouldn't. And the staff member said, let's go in this room. And she opened the door, and it was very dark. And I went into this room, and there was somebody in the bed. And I could kind of, I know we're in a gender-flexible age, but I couldn't discern anything about this person. But we walked the dog over, and the person turned over, and the staff member addressed her as she, and so I said she. And the staff member said, "Here's a dog to see you." And she turned over and looked at that dog, and a smile came on her face. And she reached out and she touched that dog. She petted that dog. And then she said to that dog, "I love you." And then the staff member said, "It's time for us to leave." And so we left. And as I was going out the door with that staff member, she said, "You know something?" And I said, "What?" She said, "That is the first sentence I have heard her utter in 1 year. The only other sentence that she's uttered all year is, "I'm sorry." People come help her, "I'm sorry." But that dog gave her occasion to feel something deep and beautiful. Wholeness, personal wholeness, doesn't have to endure. It doesn't have to be for days or weeks. It can be for one moment. And so when I say process theology once in its small way to help people become whole, we mean one moment is enough. So me going to the nursing home is practicing process theology in that dimension. And I must say, my dog Camo was practicing process theology too. Who's to say that only human beings have a capacity for adding beauty to this world? Now, the second hope that is so evident for all of us is we don't only want to be whole people. We want to live in whole communities. And we want to help others find some kind of justice, some kind of peace, some kind of equity where everybody feels heard. Everybody matters. And that's what you're trying to do in this church, by the way. You want everybody that comes in to feel welcomed. Crystal, when she greeted me today, she said, "Hi, Jay." I said, "How'd you know my name?" And you're right, that's what gets people to stay at churches. People know your name. But I felt welcomed. I felt welcomed. This is a hospitable space. And that's what we want our communities to be. So the process tradition is committed to encouraging people, helping people build local communities, Little Rock, a neighborhood in Little Rock, that are creative, compassionate, participatory, inclusive, humane to animals, and good for the earth, with no one left behind. With no one left behind. We're a far cry from that, as we all know, but it's an aspirational ideal, and you can be closer to it or further from it, and we want to grow toward that ideal. But we know, you know, that today even that's not enough, so there's a third hope. In the third hope, so we've got whole persons, whole communities. The third one is a whole planet. You know, we live in an earth community. In some sense, the earth itself is a community, the earth community. And we as a human species, the powerful more than the others, are treating it horribly with the despoliation of environments, the elimination of species, global climate change. Who do we think we are? Are we not meant to be partners in this larger earth community? Does the earth itself not form a frame of reference by which we can understand ourselves and need to understand ourselves? To what community do you belong? What is your nation? Well, I'm an American. I'm from Conway. I'm a Christian. But I belong to the earth community too. I'm a creature among creatures in a small but gorgeous planet. And we've got to do something to help the earth community flourish. Third hope. Fourth hope, and last one. We need to have a mindset, a way of thinking that invites us to live with respect and care for one another in the community of life. And it needs to learn from all sources. Science, of course. But religion too. And art too. And experience too. So I call it holistic thinking. By the way, I used to think you could spell holistic W-H-O-L-I-S-T-I-C. So I made up all kinds of signs with whole person, whole community, whole planet, holistic thinking. I was so proud of them. It was like a four-leaf clover, you know? And that fourth leaf on the clover was holistic thinking with a W. I was informed that that's not the correct spelling. Now, I said, well, in what sacred text does it say that? And anyway, I've changed it to H, so it's holistic thinking. Process thought understands itself as one example of holistic thinking. And it's got, I'm going to look at my watch here because I need to be careful here. This is where I could go on way too long, and I'm not going to. But there are 3 key ideas, and I'm going to add a fourth. One idea you're all familiar with, it's the notion of interconnectedness, mutual becoming. We're truly parts of one another. We're not skin-encapsulated egos cut off from others by the boundaries of our skin. We can't be without others who help us be. So mutual becoming, or interbecoming, I like to say. Thich Nhat Hanh says interbeing. But see, we think everything's becoming, so we changed it a little bit to interbecoming. The second is the second key idea in process theology is the intrinsic value of life. That orange cat, that woman, you, Camo, my dog. If we meet something that is a seat of awareness, has feelings, can suffer, can enjoy some kind of joy, that creature deserves respect. Respect, but we do too. The intrinsic value of life. And that means that you and I, we're not merely instruments. We're not merely our roles. Actually, we're not merely what we do. We're how we feel. We're who we are on the inside. Now, I tell you, we can mess up. I sure can. I'm glad you don't know everything about me on the inside. But we all deserve care. That's the second key idea. The animals too. And the third key idea is the notion of creativity. Influenced by Whitehead. Okay, let's say here's the Big Bang, and there's a big explosion, and there's an expanding universe, and there's a first generation of stars, and then a second generation, and we're just a little bit on the tip over here, somewhere. And it expands and expands, and let's say that somebody gets a remote control and puts a pause on it. And for some strange reason, it goes back to the initial conditions. Question is, if they then pressed play, would it unfold in exactly the same way the next time around? Process thinkers say no. Because there's something, a kernel of something like creativity within the depths of matter, within everything. Now, it's in you, you call it your freedom. But it's in the orange cat in a way too, and in a quantum event too. So I sometimes say there's 20 key ideas in process thought. There are 3 of them. You get a sense for it. I'm going to mention a 4th. And this may or may not be controversial to you. I need for you to know that the one thing I know about Unitarian churches is that there's a word that you can use, and some people have an instinctive reaction to it, and it's a bad word. And others are drawn to it, and others aren't sure what to think. And I'm going to use it right now, and you know what it is. Process theology believes that the universe itself has a mind. It's not only a network of interbecoming events. They are, just as your body includes you as the mind of your body, so the universe has a mind. That mind is not all powerful. Just as things happen in your body which your mind cannot control, things happen in the universe that mind cannot control. And yet that cosmic mind, that consciousness, if you will, is nurturing. And it finds its way into each heart as a lure toward wholeness. So when I feel that lure toward wholeness, when I seek to become whole, when we seek justice, when we want a whole planet, when we want to live with respect and care for life, we too are experiencing that divine lure within us. It's counter-entropic in the sense that it helps things grow into certain forms of order and then into novel forms of order. It's very adventurous. And they propose that cosmic mind also feels. And shares in the experience of each and every anything, anywhere, in an empathetic way. So yes, it's a great compassion. Yes, it's a fellow sufferer who understands. Yes, it's a companion to all. Yes, its nature is love. Yes, you can pray and something's listening. All powerful? Not really. Plenty of things happen that it cannot prevent. But all faithful? Yes. Never abandons. Never. So I've mentioned 4 ideas now. And you know the word that I didn't quite use on that 4th one. But I was tempted. But you can just have it in your mind. So I want to say to everybody, it's great to be here. And peace be with you. And thanks for this time together.
Please join me in our closing words that are printed in your order of service. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please, I forgot you are Kendall, right? Because Stephanie's the one who's here in spirit. Kendall's going to come in and extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amen. Blessed be, and namaste. Please join us for coffee and conversation in Thompson Hall in the Meadow Wing following the service. Go now in peace.